I planted the bug on a Thursday. Small device. Magnetic back. Tucked behind the radiator in my mother-in-law's apartment like it belonged there. The whole thing took 40 seconds. I told myself I wasn't that kind of man, the suspicious kind, the paranoid kind, but 3 months of watching my wife slip out of our bed at midnight had turned me into someone I barely recognized in the mirror. My name is Carter Hayes. 39 years old. Construction project manager from Columbus, Ohio. Sandra and I had been married 8 years. Solid years, or so I'd believed. We had a house, a dog named Hank, Saturday morning routines involving bad coffee and good conversation. The kind of marriage that looked exactly like what it was supposed to be. Then the night started. It began small. Sandra rising quietly around 11. Whispering she couldn't sleep. Going downstairs. Except I'd come down once at midnight for water and the house was empty. Her car still in the driveway. Her coat gone from the hook by the door. She'd come back at 2 a.m. smelling like cold air and something else I couldn't name. I asked her once. Casually. She said she'd been sitting on the porch. Needed fresh air. The porch faces the street. I checked through the bedroom window for 20 minutes that night. She was never on the porch. Her mother Beverly lived in the apartment we built directly next door. Shared driveway. 20 footsteps between both front doors. Sandra visited her daily, completely normal, they were close. But nobody visits their mother at midnight. Nobody except Sandra. So I stopped asking questions. And started getting answers myself. The first night's recording was mostly nothing. Beverly moving around her kitchen. Television murmuring in the background. The radiator clicking. I sat in my car in the driveway at 1 a.m. with earbuds and listening to my mother-in-law watch late-night television and felt like the most pathetic man alive. Then Sandra's voice came through. Clear. Close. Like she was standing right beside the device. He doesn't suspect anything. My hand tightened around my phone. Beverly's response was quieter, further from the device. I could only catch fragments. Can't keep doing this, Sandra. Too risky? Mom, it's fine. Sandra's voice was steady. Come. The same voice that said goodnight to me 40 minutes earlier. Carter trusts me completely. That's the whole point. Then a third voice. Mel. Low and deliberate, coming from somewhere deeper inside the apartment. My stomach dropped straight through the car seat. I rewound it 3 times. Pressed the volume to maximum. The voice was saying something I couldn't fully make out, just 2 words surfacing clearly through the static. The account. I sat in that car until 3 a.m. replaying that recording 47 times. Trying to identify the voice. Trying to fill the gaps between fragments. Trying to understand what my mother-in-law, a 64-year-old retired schoolteacher who baked banana bread and called me son, was doing harboring a man in her apartment at midnight while my wife stood calmly in her kitchen saying Carter trusts me completely. That's the whole point. Not, he doesn't know about the affair. Not, he doesn't know about us. He trusts me completely. That's the whole point. Whatever this was, it was bigger than another man. I didn't sleep that night. Lay beside Sandra in the dark listening to her breathe, steady, peaceful, completely unbothered, and tried to remember every financial conversation we'd had in the past year. Every account. Every document she'd asked me to sign. Every moment I'd handed something over without reading it properly because she was my wife and that's what trust looks like from the inside. It looks exactly like stupidity in hindsight. I called my brother Kevin at 6 a.m. He answered on the first ring because Kevin has always answered on the first ring. 20 years of that, never failed once. I kept my voice low, stepped outside onto that porch Sandra had supposedly been sitting on, and told him everything. He was quiet for a long moment. Carter. What's in your name jointly with Sandra? I ran through it mentally. House. Joint checking account. My business insurance policy. I'd added her as beneficiary 4 years ago without a second thought. And then. The Mercer contract, I said slowly. Kevin exhaled sharply. The Mercer contract was the largest project of my career. A $2.3 million commercial development deal I'd been building toward for 3 years. Signed and finalized 6 weeks ago. The project account was a joint business account Sandra had helped me set up. Her suggestion, completely practical at the time, easier for managing shared expenses, she'd said. She'd helped me set up the account. Her name was on it. $2.3 million sitting in an account with my wife's name attached. And somewhere in Beverly's apartment last night a man I couldn't identify was talking about the account at 1 a.m. My blood went completely cold. I called my bank at 8 a.m. sharp. Sat in my truck in a gas station parking lot 3 blocks from our house. Engine running, heater blasting, hands completely steady in the way hands get when your brain shifts from emotion into pure survival mode. The account manager's name was Glenn. I dealt with him twice before. Pleasant guy. Thorough. Mr. Hayes, I'm glad you called actually. A pause that lasted 1 second too long. There was an unusual activity flag on your Mercer Project account yesterday afternoon. A third-party authorization request was submitted. What kind of authorization request? Someone attempted to add a secondary signatory to the account. If approved, it would have granted full withdrawal access. Another pause. The request was flagged automatically because the submission came from an IP address in Nevada. Do you have any connection to Nevada, Mr. Hayes? I'd never been to Nevada in my life. Who submitted the request? I asked. It was submitted under your wife's credentials, Glenn said carefully. But Mr. Hayes, the device used has never been associated with any of her previous banking activity. Different location. Different browser. Different everything. He cleared his throat. We flagged it rather than processed it. But I'd strongly recommend. Freeze the account, I said. Right now. Full freeze. Already done as of this morning, sir. I hung up and sat there. Someone in Nevada had tried to crack open a $2.3 million project account using Sandra's credentials. Someone who knew her banking details. Her login. Her security answers. Someone she'd given everything to voluntarily. I drove home. Sandra was in the kitchen making eggs, humming softly to herself. She turned and smiled when I walked in. Morning, babe. Hungry? I smiled back. Starving, I said. That evening Sandra left at 11:47 p.m. I watched the bedroom ceiling for 90 seconds after she pulled the door shut. Then I was up, dressed, earbuds in, recording already live on my phone. I sat at the top of our dark staircase like a man waiting for a verdict he already knew was coming. Her voice came through within minutes. Clearer tonight. She was closer to the device. He froze the account, Mom. Silence. I don't know how. Maybe the bank flagged it. Maybe, a pause. No. No, Carter isn't smart enough to, her voice dropped. He can't know. He was completely normal this morning. Made coffee. Kiss me goodbye. He doesn't know. The man's voice again. Closer this time. Much closer. And this time I heard him fully. Then we moved to the backup. The insurance policy. My business insurance policy. $1.8 million. Sandra listed as sole beneficiary. Something I'd signed without hesitation 4 years ago because that's what married people do. They protect each other. They sign things. They trust. The policy only pays on, Beverly's voice. Hesitant. Nervous. I know what it pays on, the man said quietly. The room went completely silent on the recording. And in that silence I finally understood the full architecture of what was being built around me, quietly, patiently, from multiple directions simultaneously. The account was option 1. The insurance policy was option 2. And option 2 only activated under a specific condition no man ever wants to think about. I wasn't just being robbed. I was being erased. I sat on that dark staircase and made a decision right there. No lawyers first. No banks. No brother. I needed to know who that man was. Tonight. I moved through our backyard in complete darkness. No phone light. No noise. Just the cold November air and 14 years of knowing exactly which floorboard on Beverly's back porch creaked and which didn't, because I'd built that porch myself 3 summers ago with my own hands. I avoided the third board from the left. Beverly's kitchen light was on. Curtains drawn but thin, the kind that diffuse light without blocking shapes. I pressed myself against the exterior wall beside the window and just listened first. 3 voices. Distinct. Close. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Then I shifted 2 inches and looked through the gap where the curtain didn't quite reach the frame. Beverly sat at her kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug, shoulders hunched, looking like a woman who'd agreed to something she couldn't figure out how to undo. Sandra stood near the counter. Composed. Almost businesslike. And the man sat with his back to the window. Broad shoulders. Dark jacket. Silver hair trimmed close at the neck. I couldn't see his face. Sandra was speaking. 2 more weeks maximum. Carter's schedule has him on site in Dayton from the 14th through the 21st. That's our window. Our window. For what? I already knew. The policy documentation is clean? The man asked. Completely, Sandra said. I handled it personally. He nodded slowly. Then reached across the table and put his hand over Beverly's. A gesture so familiar. So practiced. So intimate. Beverly looked up at him with an expression I recognized immediately but couldn't process. The way a woman looks at a man she's loved for decades. I finally saw his face in profile. and the ground disappeared completely beneath me. My father, Raymond Hayes, 67 years old, retired electrician from Columbus. The man who taught me to throw a baseball, co-signed my first business loan, sat in the front row at my wedding with tears streaming down his face. My father was sitting in my mother-in-law's kitchen at midnight, with his hand over hers, looking at her the way you look at someone you've loved privately for a very long time. I don't remember walking back across the yard. Don't remember climbing the porch steps or crossing the kitchen or sitting down on the bottom stair inside our house. I just remember suddenly being there, in the dark, phone still recording in my hand, the sounds of the neighborhood completely muffled like someone had wrapped the whole world in cotton. My father. And Beverly. I pulled up the recording from night one and listened again with completely different ears. The third voice I hadn't recognized, slightly distorted through the device, unfamiliar without context. My own father's voice. How long? That was the only question my brain would form. Everything else, the account, the insurance policy, the window in Dayton, all of it temporarily drowned beneath one single devastating question. How long had this been happening? I called Kevin at 1 a.m. didn't say hello. Just played him 30 seconds of the kitchen recording through the phone. His silence lasted a very long time. Carter? How long did you know? Another silence. Smaller this time. But enough. Kevin. My voice came out like gravel. How long did you know about Dad and Beverly? He exhaled slowly. 7 years, he whispered. I found out 7 years ago. I thought it had ended. Carter, I swear I thought it had ended. 7 years. My brother had carried that for 7 years. My father had been walking into that apartment for God knows how long. And Sandra, the woman I'd married, the woman who'd stood across from me and made promises in front of everyone I loved, had known exactly who her mother was involved with when she married me. She hadn't married a husband. She'd married access. I went to Detective Aaron Price the next morning. 12-year veteran, Financial Crimes Division. I walked in with 3 nights of recordings, bank documentation, the Nevada IP flag from Glenn, and an insurance policy with my name on one end and my wife's on the other with a very specific payout condition attached. Price listened to everything without moving. Then, this is attempted conspiracy to commit fraud. Potentially worse depending on how far the insurance angle developed. He leaned forward. Mr. Hayes, you did everything right. Most people confront first and destroy their own case. They arrested Sandra on a Wednesday. My father came to the station voluntarily. Cooperated completely. Sat across from me in a room with a table between us that felt like it stretched for miles and couldn't look me in the eyes for more than 2 seconds at a time. He said he was sorry. I believed him. It didn't change anything. Beverly pled guilty to conspiracy charges. Sandra received 4 years. My father, whose involvement stopped short of the fraud itself, received probation and lost something no court could formally sentence him to lose. His son. I rebuilt the Mercer Project account. Finished the contract. Removed every name except my own from everything I'd ever owned. Some nights I still sit on that porch. The one Sandra supposedly used for fresh air. The one I'd watched from the bedroom window wondering what kind of fool couldn't see what was right in front of him. Turns out, the trusting kind. I don't consider that a flaw anymore. I consider it evidence that I loved completely. They just never deserved it,